Got that audio track locked in and hot, ready to roll.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Gettin Cheezy with Van and Jeezy. I'm Van.
And I'm Jeezy.
Keeping it cheesy, we're going to move to new news this week, which, besides one obvious thing we'll touch on later, there hasn't been a ton of. Other than, I guess maybe, Joe Flacco gets traded to Denver for 2 fourth-round picks.
What I want to talk about before we talk about Joe Flacco is John Elway getting senile? How old is John Elway?
Fucking ancient.
Is he really that old? He's 58 years old. So, okay, he's not getting senile. We can rule that out.
Okay, is he the GM in Denver now, or is he still, like, the director of football operations?
Don't we still not know what that is?
No, we don't. It seems to me like a made-up position that is somebody who's like, all right, you've been around for a while and you've done some good things, but like we don't really know what it is you should do, but we know we have to keep you around. So, director of football operations, all right.
John Albert Elway Jr. is the general manager of the Denver Broncos. His career started before we were born.
Back when the Broncos had those sweet-ass orange uniforms and the logo is the D with the Bronco coming out of it, that was sweet.
Yeah, with the big old pony jumping out of D.
I like those. Those were slick. I don't know if he loses his job. He hasn't had a great track record, right? Like, didn't he draft Paxton Lynch and Trevor Siemian? And then at some point, Mark Sanchez was in there, but then like immediately got traded elsewhere.
Brock Osweiler.
Did you say Brock Assweiler? Because that's even funnier.
They bring in Brock Assweiler. They bring in Case Keenum.
It's like, you remember Barrel of Monkeys, the game?
Yes.
Right, okay. It's like he takes the Barrel of Monkeys, and they're all quarterbacks on the inside, and he takes and he just, like, dumps them out on the table, and he finds all the ones with the fucking broken, mangled arms, and he goes, that one. He's digging from the bottom of the barrel of shitty quarterbacks. I don't know if he loses his job, because how do you kick John Elway out of Denver?
That's a good question. I mean, he owns all the car dealerships there as well.
He also, in Denver, had the Vortex football. Do you remember him promoting the Vortex football?
Are you talking about the Nerf Vortex?
Yeah, those were fucking sweet, dude. I had the Howler one that was if you grab that thing by the tail and chuck it instead of using the ball part itself, it went way fucking further.
Is that true?
Yeah. Did you ever try that?
I've never tried that.
Anyways, John Elway, how do you get rid of the guy that...
But hold on. John Elway. I pulled it up. ElwayDealers.com. He has 4 dealerships. He got Chevrolet, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge Ram It. He's got Cadillac and the John.
Dodge Ram It.
But all of them, the John, instead of having a little line for the slot, has a 7 to make the O slot for his jersey number.
Oh, that's creative. I wouldn't have thought of that. But I don't think he loses his job. Well, I think maybe he gets...
That was a quick second guess of opinion there.
If this doesn't pan out, he goes from general manager to director of football operations.
They're just going to do a internal shakeup.
To everybody else in the world, it's a demotion, but like to Elway, it's like, no, it's just a sideways move.
So it's a lateral. Yeah, it's a quick lateral move. Let me ask you it this way. Give me your elevator pitch for why I would pay any money for Joe Flacco. You got 30 seconds.
Well, he at one point won a Super Bowl. At one point was the highest paid quarterback in the league. And let's not forget, when he got that paycheck, the first thing he did was go to McDonald's and buy like a value menu or some shit. He's a great guy. Looks like he might be a B-list quarterback, but he's definitely not going to turn your organization around, but he'll definitely bring you to some kind of level of better than you were last year. Are you sold? Are you going to buy him? Are you going to buy him?
I would seriously consider him now. I have to check how much money I have in my wallet before I pay, but it's one of those things that if everything looks good, maybe if the kids really want him, I'd take him home. Yeah, I think so.
Is there a lemon law in Denver? What happens when I get him home and he starts clunking?
Well, I mean, honestly, that's the big risk with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco, I think, still has the moves. But the problem is that he's not spring chicken anymore, and he's got a recent history of being pretty injury prone.
I see Joe Flacco being the kind of guy that goes to Denver and goes, I can't breathe in the elevation. Mile High Stadium, I can't breathe.
I mean, that is a consideration. That is definitely true. So let's look at his stats for the last season that he finished on his own. For 2017, played 16 games, 549 attempts, 352 completions for 64%,
It's not bad.
3,100 yards, which is okay. 18 touchdowns.
Nah.
13 interceptions. That's a lot of interceptions.
Very average.
His passer rating, 80.4, and his QBR is 49.8. It's like okay.
It's not terrible either, though. He's average to slightly below average. Now, I also heard that the Redskins were interested in Joe Flacco prior to Denver being interested, which
Right, with Alex Smith being out.
I thought that would be a better fit than it would be for Denver, honestly.
You think so? I mean, I guess you change conference, which is always good.
And I feel like they're both decent pocket passers. Joe Flacco is not known for being mobile.
If I may use a technology reference, he is the desktop computer of quarterbacks. He's not a laptop. He's not a mobile phone. You have to have a space for him to work.
You can't have him in the corner. It's going to overheat.
Yeah, no,
and it's going to break.
He's too big and clunky. You can't put him on your counter in your kitchen or something. He needs a dedicated desk.
You got to keep him underneath the desk, because otherwise it kind of gets in the way. You know, it's just keep him out of sight.
Well, Joe Flacco, honestly, I think you're pretty good, but
there's like so many better quarterbacks out there they could have picked up. Like,
you think so many?
Nick Foles, dude, pick up Big Dick. Pick up Big Dick Foles. Send him to Denver.
You think so? I mean,
Teddy Bridgewater, better.
I do like Teddy Bridgewater, honestly. I think he's a good quarterback.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Do you think that Joe Flacco has like a revival in Denver?
It's a good question.
Is he Peyton Manning it, where like got injured or whatever, comes back to Denver, plays his wheels off, and rides off into the sunset?
I think it would be awesome for Joe Flacco to do that.
Waka Flacco Flame.
If Waka Flacco Flame could go out there, do some things in the AFC, and lose to the Packers in the Super Bowl, that would be fine to me.
I do think he's an upgrade over Case Keenum, though.
I have to agree. I think he is too. So the comparison is the upside, right? So Joe Flacco, there's not a lot of upside because there's not, I don't think, a lot of career left. I think Case Keenum, we saw some good things, some flashes of brilliance when he was in Minnesota.
Oh, brilliant.
Okay, fine. We saw some flashes.
Saw some flashes of okayness.
Okay, fine. Let's meet in the middle and say we saw some flashes of, oh, that was pretty neat. I think he could be a pretty neat quarterback.
Neat. Wowee.
Exactly. He could be pretty
Whiz
neat.
Bang.
I think he has a little bit of an up ramp that he could get better, but not. I'm convincing myself that it's not true the more I say it about Case Keenum. You're right. Joe Flacco, obvious improvement, an obvious Band-Aid until we can find a better option.
Case Keenum might have time on his side because Joe Flacco is not just on the back nine of his career, he's on the green of the 18th hole. Like, he is just about to tap this one in for a gimme and be done. Continuing this week segment. One cool thing I liked this week was I watched a little bit of AAF football. I watched the Birmingham Iron against the Salt Lake Stallions. Go Pack Go. Someone threw a challenge flag, and the coolest thing was that sky judge, which, you know, obvious idea, NFL, put a sky judge up there. During the replay, the sky judge is the one doing the assessment of the play, and he's talking out loud, and you get to hear that. You get to hear him say, like, well, it's just not conclusive. I can't tell exactly from this angle. I don't have this angle here. I can't really see. It's got to stay as called in the field. Super cool. Limitation being the NFL has about, 500,000 cameras. They got like 3 handheld video recorders in the AAF to try and evaluate these things. It's not high technology. They've got like 3 camera views, and they're doing their best out there. But I think that's super cool.
So let's pause for one moment. I'm looking at the map of the closest AAF team to every county in the United States. And based on county, we are whatever the E is, the Express.
Memphis Express.
That's our closest team. And this map is, I think, somewhat confusing because I feel like the territory should be somewhat similar size.
It's like the Electoral College map.
It really is. So I'm looking at the map right now, right? So the Salt Lake City Stallions have all of Alaska.
Well, there's like 4 people that live there. Do they have North Dakota too? Because that bumps up to like 6 people.
But listen to this. They also have Washington State, Oregon, Northern California, Nevada, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Nebraska, part of Minnesota.
According to this map, I'm supposed to be a purple supporter.
Yeah, me too.
What are the purples?
That's what I was trying to figure out. That must be the Atlanta Legend. So if you look at the Atlanta Legend there, that is the most densely populated part of the country, and they have one of the hugest geography chunks. It's got the entire Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic.
It's the Electoral College in AAF form. So I watched the Stallions, the Salt Lake Stallions, and the Birmingham Iron. I only watched a half of that game, and it was pretty all right. I know you said that little bro Jeezy watched the week prior, and he thought it was like fast and exciting, but I was like, yep, this is the Canadian Football League. These are definitely guys who didn't make it in the NFL or did make it and fell off their career. Absolutely.
Little bro Jeezy says he wants to come on and talk more about the AAF. He's been watching games. He wants to get some opinions on here. So I say, let's bring him on. Let's have him talk to you.
Well, we can. We have plenty of off season, but we already have a slot promised to Brennan, my quarterback.
Do you have him scheduled?
We aren't important and big enough to schedule folks on our podcast.
Was he just going to post his questions to our MySpace?
No, we'll call him and coordinate it, but we definitely aren't important enough to have, Van's secretary, schedule me a phone call with the quarterback, please. Schedule me a phone call.
With the quarterback.
I'd like to set up a meeting with
quarterback.
him. I'd like to set up a luncheon meeting with him to discuss the details of him coming on the show. No, it's just we're two fucking goons talking over Skype. So, quick cheesy segue here into Packers news.
Ooh.
This is Jeezy's article. He found it. He's very proud of it.
Look, man, it's a really nice article. It's a lot longer than I thought it was. For those who are interested, you can find it at packers.com/news/from-town-to-titletown. hyphen. So this is written by Wes Hodkiewicz from packers.com. I think this could be a two-parter. This is a pretty big thing. So we'll call this Part 1. A look into Matt LaFleur's journey.
Part 1, so the next one could be Part 2.
Okay, Part 1. His parents, Denny and Christy LaFleur, are both...
Denny? Denny's?
No, his name is Denny.
Denny's?
Oh my god, it is. Why does Denny's keep coming up endlessly? His father's name is Denny.
I'm getting Denny's corporate on the line right now and asking for a sponsorship.
All signs are pointing to Denny's for us.
I'm going straight to corporate and saying, listen, I have a wonderful idea for Jimmy Graham Slam.
That's perfect. It's going to consist of, like, people bringing you a hot plate of food and then fumbling it all over the floor. It'll be a tipped plate all over the floor. That's horrible. Anyway, his parents are both big football fans. They're from a small town in Michigan. So his dad, Denny, was the first guy to bring youth football to Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Matt LaFleur is pretty amazing here. He's like, I want to be a quarterback. He goes to all of his dad's summer camps and all that stuff about football. His dad has been in coaching for, multiple decades. He ran these camps and everything. His mom, her father is Bob Behringer, who coached at Kalamazoo. For them, football is in their family from beginning to end. It's not just a game, but it's a tradition for their family. So for Matt, he decided
that's like one of those things you put on those dumbass like white girl signs on your wall. It's not just a game; it's a tradition.
They have a picture here again on the site from Packers.com with Denny LaFleur with his college football players around him, and it says, "They lived football." So their neighbor has this quote, which I will say is a unique quote. Here's the quote from Ruiz, his neighbor. "They lived and died football. It's what they breathed. It's what they did. It was a unique experience."
That sounds like that's a creepy neighbor.
I read this quote earlier.
He's one of those guys like a little bit off.
No. When I read this quote, I was like, what did they ask? Was he like on his way to the bathroom and they asked him this quote? He's just like, oh, they lived and died football. It's what they breathed. It's what they did. It was a unique experience. Okay, I gotta go. You know what I mean? I gotta shit. It's just like, I don't know exactly. I don't know.
Can this question wait for later? No, we need an answer right now. They lived and breathed football.
Exactly. So Matt LaFleur, he ends up being a quarterback, has a really good couple seasons as the varsity quarterback in high school. He was a coach's dream.
Aww.
So anyway, he goes down to a different school. They say, take us for a ride. So he ends up being the quarterback there and doing, and winning and doing some things. When I met Matt, that was it. I looked at Matt and said, this man is as close to that type of quarterback I was looking for. A quarterback I could give the keys to the car and say, take us for a ride. I'm telling you, if he was only bigger, he'd be playing in the NFL, not coaching. That's the only difference.
Okay.
So all of this is to say in Matt LaFleur part, unless we don't ever want to do a part 2, is that in case we never want to do a part 2, is that Matt LaFleur from an early age was all about the football, which I love that. I dig it. I'm sure he's yelled at more TVs than I have, which is an impressive stat on its own. And because
based on age,
I would say
he's got some age on you.
I would say per day, even if we just put it on like average, his percentage per year of televisions yelled at out of the total population of televisions.
Okay, but is it multiple televisions, or like I only have one television that I yell at a lot?
So I guess I'm not explaining this well. I think he has spent more hours on average per day. Can we say that? So it doesn't matter how many total TVs, it's per day number of hours on average yelled at the television.
In regards to football only.
In regards to football only. That's right. I've yelled at the television for many other things that may or may not have to do with football. Anyway, what I'm saying is, from the beginning, the LaFleur's all about football. Matt LaFleur comes in with this pedigree of football. He's got a quarterback mentality. He changed schools to be a starting quarterback. I think it's really exciting to look at that as our new head coach and say, here's a guy who wants to run a team. He's done some successful things. He's worked with different quarterbacks, and he's got that whole mindset for what does it take to be a successful quarterback in this league. To me, that's an exciting prospect I'm really looking forward to, and that's my half dive into this story.
We're gonna cheesy our way on to the next segment here. This is the new shtick, everybody. We're gonna cheesy our way through everything. Get used to it.
I don't even know what to say. Keep going.
Gossip Girl section.
Oh, hit that high note.
All right. I mentioned it earlier. The one quite obvious thing in football that happened this week.
Yes.
Colin Kaepernick reaches a settlement with the NFL. Not only that, but earlier in the week, it also came out that Colin Kaepernick wanted $20 million to play in the AAF. There's a lot of Kaepernick news to talk about. The one thing I will briefly say about the AAF request is that those players are making about $250,000 over 3 years, which works out to about $83,000 a year. And Colin Kaepernick's request of $20 million is approximately 240 times what those other players are making.
So we figured out how many players are there in the whole league? Approximately 52 times 8 teams, right?
It's 416 players in the league.
So I think if you add in some other stuff like insurance and other fees, let's say it's about $100,000 per player, right?
Right.
Does that sound fair? So what do we look at? If we're looking at 416 times 100,000, that's what?
$41.6 million.
So at $20 million. Now, was this $20 million per year, or was this $20 million over 3?
Even if it wasn't 20 for 3 years, that's still it's about $6.5 million for 1 year.
So we're looking at either it's enough for 200 players a year, or it's enough for 60 some odd players per year. Now, I'm not saying, I don't want to go on and comment whether he's worth it or not.
He's not.
I think he is, obviously.
Carry on.
But I don't think a league like that can survive paying that much for any one player.
When they're still running on handheld handycams to record the game and look at instant replays, they don't have enough money to do any kind of that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
I did hear though, and we discussed this yesterday. I said I wasn't going to go there, but I
knew
did
you
hear that. Well, just wait. It's going to go a way you didn't expect. I did hear that Tim Tebow was also approached about coming back to the AAF.
Yep.
And he said, nah, I'm playing baseball. Sorry, Bowdy. And we talked about who would you rather have? Who is the better quarterback, Colin Kaepernick or Tim Tebow?
Yeah, we did talk about that.
And I will go ahead and eat my words. I was of the impression that I would rather have Tim Tebow over Colin Kaepernick. I will go ahead and eat my words. After looking up some stats, I will rescind my previous statement and say that, Jeezy, you were right. Colin Kaepernick was a better quarterback than Tim Tebow.
Well, of course he was. I know that.
The reason why I said Tim Tebow is not as good, the one number that got me was a 47.9% completion percentage.
He was not known for throwing the ball. Look, I don't want to tarnish Tim Tebow's name, but here's what I'll say about Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow is the slightly worse version of Blake Bortles, which is unfair to say about anybody, but they are so similar in gameplay. Blake Bortles won a few playoff games, but that doesn't mean I think he's a great quarterback. As a matter of fact, I think he's horrible. Okay,
I never said Tim Tebow was great. I never said he was great. My first thing I said was that he was better than Colin Kaepernick, which turned out to not be true.
Yeah, I don't think, objectively, even subjectively, it's just such a small sample size with Tebow. He didn't really play that much ball.
Right. Colin Kaepernick, by the way, everybody, he's a hometown boy, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Yeah, he is.
So the real meat of the issue here, the real crux of the Gossip Girl section with Colin Kaepernick is the settlement with the NFL.
There's not even anything saying, like, sources close to the situation have stated. All those numbers, from what I've read, are strictly speculation. We're still talking strictly gossip. Like we're talking gossip about actual gossip. I found it interesting to think about just the politics of what happens here, right? So we don't know the numbers for sure.
I've got a Clutch Points article pulled up here by Bernadette. Oh, I've referenced her before. Bernadette Giacomazzo.
Thanks, Bernie.
Big Burn. So I've got this article pulled up here, and what she says is that there was actually a confidentiality agreement that was signed. The word shouldn't be getting out what that number was.
Right. But here's the interesting part of the politics of it, right? And when I say politics, I don't mean, is he conservative or is he liberal? I mean, there's something to spin here, right? There was obviously, this is a high-profile case in the NFL, and each of the 32 teams in the National Football League, they have to pay 1/32 of the penalty or fee or settlement number that Eric Reed and Colin Kaepernick got. Now, if you think about that, that's interesting, right? Because I always loved the saying, one person can keep a secret. 32 people plus Eric Reed and Colin Kaepernick
plus Eric Reed
and Roger Goodell. That's a lot of people that know a secret. I've known secrets. If I'm the only one that knows it, I know it stays a secret. As soon as I tell one person, I know for sure that somebody else's significant other, somebody's mom, somebody's brother, somebody else knows the secret. And what I'm saying is the number, even if it's not a lot bigger than those speculative numbers, even if it's a little bit bigger, if somebody's, one of these owners, one of these players, one of these attorneys, who knows, is out drinking, the number slips. Or the other
That's like the dude that created one of the new iPhone versions. He got drunk at a bar and left on the bar.
Oh yeah, left the.
It was fucking check out the new iPhone. Leave this here right now. I'm fucked up.
But what I'm saying is, knowing the number is a big thing because it sets a precedence, right? Like this is a social issue within the league. Leaking the actual numbers can do one of two things. It could say, look, man, this wasn't even a big deal. We barely paid that dude any money really at all, and we got to quiet him. Or if it's a big number, then it's, Colin Kaepernick did the social thing, brought a lot of awareness, and then he fattened his pockets up. So it's two different stories depending on the number.
Yeah. There's so many different angles to it, and a lot of it to me is like, all right, put the tinfoil hat on here.
Yeah, we got to get definitely tinfoil hats to dive deep on this.
Because one tinfoil hat thing is that, he's already getting 7 figgies from Nike. What does he need another 60 mil for, right? The other thing is, to me, is if 32 NFL teams are paying into it, that's the NFL admitting, yeah, we might have done something. Or, we just don't want to deal with this bullshit anymore. Just pay him and be done. But I think no matter what way this would have gone, there was no good outcome for the NFL. or Colin Kaepernick as an individual. So I guess in conclusion, inconclusive.
It's more likely that this was a lose-lose than it was a win-win or a win-loss or a loss-win or whatever. However, it's more likely that this was a loss-loss because Colin Kaepernick, I think, is a competent enough person at quarterback to be in the league. Come on, don't grimace at that. What the fuck, man? Blake Bortles was in.
I don't know how deep down this hole we want to get.
All right, let's not do it. Let's just skip all this.
So, cheesing on to the interesting take section.
Let's pull this cheese on forward.
That's right. Let's string this cheese out. This is Jeezy's turn for interesting take section. So, yeah, he had a really good one, I thought. A very, very well thought out, interesting take for the week. So, go ahead.
This originally came up because we were looking at professional football at $80,000. Basically $250,000 over 3 years with the AAF. And I told Van, that's not a horrible salary. It's above the median income in the United States. I personally, if I were an athlete, I don't know if I could play football for that price. Football is just such a high impact sport. If I were the kicker, maybe I would consider playing for that much. But it's such a high impact sport. And so we took a little dive here and looked at, well, what are your benefits? Basically, best case scenario. You have to get vested as a player for many of your benefits. And the big thing I want to harp on here is health insurance, because in the world of football, all of our favorite players who've been in the league at least a few years have experienced some injuries. And look, man, it happens. I threw out my back earlier this year riding a bicycle up a moderate hill. I was out for 6 weeks. I couldn't tie my shoes.
I was out for a week earlier. You know what I did?
What'd you did?
I slept slightly the wrong way.
Look, man, I was out for 6 weeks.
Another time, you know what I did?
What'd you did?
I looked down.
You see what I'm saying? So what I want to talk about here for a minute is when you think about football, right? That's higher impact than sleeping. That's higher impact than looking down. That's higher impact than riding a bicycle up a very, very moderate hill. Yet, you're not guaranteed health insurance for your whole career. Now, let's take a step back here. What I want to talk about is, for baseball, if you play one game, and this is from benefitsbclp.com, players vest in their pensions after 43 days on the active roster, which is super fast anywhere.
Most companies, you don't even get fully vested in your insurance until it's 90 days.
Yeah, exactly. 43 days. Anyway, players vest in their pensions after 43 days on the active roster and underline bold, triple bold, bigger letters, and just 1 day on the roster. So just 1 day qualifies a player for lifetime health care. Baseball has so many games in the season that garbage time is a part of their season when a season is lost, where they start just bringing up people from the AAAs to see how they do in the majors. So, there are people who come up, they play a game or two, and they've got lifetime health care. I'm looking at these benefits again. I sent you the links here. This is playsmartplaysafe.com. It's about the NFL benefits. You and your eligible dependents receive medical, dental, prescription drug, and work-life resources coverages. All of this will continue for you and your eligible dependents for 5 years, known as continuing veteran coverage. That's it. 5 years. You're out of the league. 5 years, you're done. That's it. And that is if you're a vested active player. You have to get 3 seasons to be vested at the NFL. I'm just saying 1 day in the MLB, 1 day, and you don't even have to play. You just have to be on the active roster. 1 day, you get a lifetime of benefits. This is a pretty stark difference, right? 1 day on one team in the MLB, your whole life. 3 years on an NFL team, you get 5 years of coverage after you retire. They do have something called the 88 plan, which is named for John Mackey, who played with the Baltimore Colts. Basically, the 88 plan provides retired players with up to $88,000 per year for medical and custodial care resulting from dementia, including Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. This is quoted from NFLretired.bowweb.com. I think that's a step in the right direction to say, hey, here we have a place to step in and provide some care. But, I think the NFL should really be looking to take a bigger step and make that commitment like the MLB did to provide lifetime care for their athletes. So you've been listening to Gettin Cheezy with Van and Jeezy.
I'm Van.
And I'm Jeezy.
Make sure to check us out and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play Music, YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook, Twitter. We're still everywhere. And most importantly,
yes,
cheesypodcast.com.
Yeah, y'all, check us out there. You can get that audio hot and fresh, all the cheese on it, right at cheesypodcast.com. Plus, find your place to subscribe.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.